Okay, so we've got some very exciting news for you. The Defense Secretary and the White House had to address something that I think is very, very important. We lead with, let's go to Cut 8. This is John Kirby at the Pentagon.
The top officials at the Pentagon, when asked explicitly if they were ruling out any kind of extraterrestrial presence, said they weren't ruling anything out. And yet at the beginning of today's briefing, albeit with her usual winning smile, Ms. Jean-Pierre seemed to rule out any extraterrestrial activity.
I don't think the American people need to worry about aliens with respect to these craft, period. I don't think there's any more that needs to be said there.
Okay, all right. I just want to say, do you recognize your country today? The spokesperson from the Pentagon, without any laughter from the press corps, said, quote, I don't think the American people need to worry about extraterrestrials today. Oh, okay. Well, that's normal. All right. I got it. Now, we've heard from Austin, they are not a threat. And then we've heard they are a threat. And then we've heard they're not a threat. And then we see that they use Sidewinder missiles to take them down. Why would you do that if it's not a threat? By the way, just so you know, in the balloon fight, we had to use 2 Sidewinders. The first one missed it. That's just a $500,000 missile, $500,000 missile. It missed it. My favorite part of the story is, and the Pentagon didn't track where that missile landed, but they're pretty sure that no harm was done. Pretty sure? Pretty sure. Okay.
We don't want to shoot the balloon down in the first place because of the shrapnel that might hit the ground, but we'll just let missiles fly randomly into societies.
And they're trying to get a better sense of what these things are by going and looking at them, but it proves to be very difficult because the debris is landing in the sea or in the water. Here's an idea. Don't shoot it down over the water. What? Yeah. Don't shoot it down over the water. I know it's very, very, very complex. Now, Biden has ordered the creation, listen to this, he's ordered the creation of interagency team to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena. UAP. Okay, that's what they now call UFOs. Okay? Does anybody want to step in and tell me what's wrong with this story? The president, through his national security advisor, today has directed an interagency team to study the broader policy implications for detection, analysis, and disposition of unidentified aerial objects that pose either safety or security risks. Nobody? We already did this in Congress 2 years ago. We have one. Marco Rubio set it up. It's why we've found out about possible alien life in the first place. You already have a commission, an interagency commission that is studying this. They've produced a report. And yet, yesterday, he announces we're going to do another one.
We need a committee to study that committee.
Well, we need a committee of doctors to study the brain. All right. So now the U.S. military first shot at an unknown octagon. Say it.
I'm not even sure.
An octagon.
Okay.
An object that was an optagon over Lake Huron. Okay. Yesterday, they said, we don't think it was a balloon. We don't think it was a balloon.
Was it a kite?
No, we just don't think it was a balloon because it was an octagon, and you don't have balloons that are octagon. Well, Scott Adams just searched Google for 5 minutes, and he found an octagonal weather balloon for sale on Google. So apparently they do make them, but maybe the Pentagon doesn't have Google. Not sure.
Maybe you covered this while I was gone, but do you have what's your cohesive theory that explains this? Is it just that we've always had lots of balloons going over our heads and didn't know it?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. Because yesterday I spent a lot of time just explaining I don't think the extraterrestrial life has come from Alpha Centauri and then invading us with weather balloons. I just don't think that they were like...
That would be a weird approach.
Yeah,
but
again,
you know what? It would throw us off the track.
Let's get into the hot air balloon and go down and visit them. I just didn't think that would be the mode of invasion.
Feels low probability to me.
It does. Okay. It does. Okay. So what is happening? Well, did you know that on January 28th, the U.S. Air Force spotted the spy balloon, right? Coming in from Alaska. And it went over the Aleutian Islands. It was in Canadian airspace. And then by the 31st, somebody was looking up and they're like, hey, that looks like a balloon. What is it? And the government had known about it the whole time, but decided to just be quiet. Like, we're not going to see this balloon up in the sky. Okay. Did you know that just a few days prior to this, the Coast Guard caught a Russian spy ship gathering intelligence near Hawaii? Now, the media was focused on one spy ship. The Coast Guard released photos of several. Now, these are not ghost balloons. These are ships that just kind of like materialized. Nobody had seen them. They had been going back and forth, changing directions, avoiding all of our ability to track these ships. And then they just kind of like came out. That's great. That's wonderful. So we have that. Now, I don't know if anybody has checked this, but it's almost like Russia and China are now in bed together. And maybe we're in a proxy war with not only Russia, but also China. They're checking our defenses. They are seeing, are we spotting them? Can they get past us? And they are just testing, I think, our president on the balloons. So they're playing chicken with us. Okay. They're not losing. They're not winning, but they're not losing. Okay. So why is this happening? Well, has anybody noticed the volume of trade between Russia and China? It's gone through the roof. So Beijing is now in the role where they are pretty much funding Russia's war in Ukraine. You know, kind of like us funding Ukrainian side of the war. So, wow, it sounds like we're on a losing team. Looks like we've got Russia and China now as the Axis power, and us and Ukraine. Yay.
Theoretically Europe, right?
Yeah, theoretically Europe. So this is what I think is truly happening. Now, in about 10 minutes in Washington, D.C., they're getting a confidential briefing about the spy balloons. So we should have some idea. China just came out yesterday and said, yeah, well, you know, there's been 10 balloons in our airspace since 2022. Washington, D.C. sends the balloons over to our place all the time. Okay, don't know if that's true, but maybe we should just kind of back down a little bit, seeing that we are now facing China and Russia. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to war with China and Russia. I don't want to go to war with China and, Ethel, who lives down at the end of my street. Let's not go to war. What do you say?
Ethel's pretty spicy. I mean, she brings it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get her involved in this.
Correct. Right? You know Ethel.
Oh, yeah. Everybody.
Everybody does.
Everybody knows Ethel.
Does. All right. So we have that going for us. Now we find out that Russia may have lost an entire elite brigade near Donetsk coal mining town. So it's not going well for them. However, yesterday, the State Department said, hey, if you're an American citizen, okay, you should not travel to Russia. Duh, you think so? But if you're there, you need to depart immediately. Now, part of this is because what's left are dual citizens, okay? And what we're saying is, quote, due to the unpredictable consequences of the unprovoked full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russian military forces, Americans in Russia face harassment, unlawful detention, and the possibility of terrorism. Also, Americans in Russia could be subject to mobilization and conscripted to the Russian military. So they're saying they might just grab people and just say, you're in the military. Or they might just send you to a gulag. So that seems like, really good news. Now, one last story. This comes from Forbes. Carl Sandburg, he's the guy who wrote the Lincoln, biography. And he said near the end of the Civil War, how improbable it was that the nation had turned to a one-horse lawyer from a one-horse town to save it. The president confided that he too thought it was strange and then observed, it was a time when a man with a policy would have been fatal to the country. I've never had policy. I've just tried to do what was best as each day came. Abraham Lincoln. Next, the next paragraph. President Biden's response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine has a similar flavor. He had no policy for dealing with such an invasion when he entered office because he wasn't expecting one. But once the invasion became imminent, Biden did everything he could to dissuade President Putin. But the war began, and Biden and his advisors expecting a quick Russian victory just tried to do the right thing.
This is that is a magnificent story in so many ways. First of all, I mean, Abraham Lincoln was really smart and said a lot of really good things. That's the one you're pulling out?
Yeah.
I didn't really know anything about this, so I just kind of I winged it. That's not a good quote from Lincoln.
Right.
You should have had a policy on slavery.
Well, the story goes on and says maybe we should have a policy in this one.